Here's your hint for this week's weekly project. And there are 4 vocab words that you are being asked to identify for this week. The first 2 that you're asked to identify are independent variable and dependent variable. And I'm going to use an example that we've already used in class because I think it might be good just to kind of jog your memory. These are the 2 options that we were looking at back when we were picking our movie theater field trip. Option number 1 charges us a $75 flat fee. Remember, that means that doesn't matter how many kids we show up with, we get charged $75 just for scheduling the trip. And then they charge us $5 per student. Option number 2 is charging us a $50 flat fee and then $10 per student. So there are 2 different factors going on in this situation. There is cost and there's the number of kids that we're bringing. So if this were a question on your homework, it might ask, which one is the independent and which one is the dependent? And the way it's easier for me personally to figure out the dependent variable because I just say to myself, okay, which one depends on the other? Well, in this case, the cost depends on how many kids you take, right? Because the more kids you take, the more expensive it's going to be. So since the cost is the one that depends on the number of kids, that means that cost is going to be your dependent variable. And that means that the number of kids is going to be your independent variable. So when you are asked which one is the independent and which one is the dependent, try to think about which one is it that is going to depend on the other. And that helps you to figure out the dependent variable. And then obviously the other one has to be the independent variable. The other 2 words that you're being asked to find in this week's weekly project is initial amount. Oops, would help if I spelled it right. And rate of change. I'm just going to abbreviate it with ROC. I hate writing that out. And in each situation, we have an example of each, but how do we figure out which one is which? Okay, well, when you're saying your name, so my name, for example, I usually go by Liz, last name Popelka. My initials are LP because LP are right there at the beginning of my name. Well, the same way that the initial of your name is at the beginning, the initial amount is where you start in each situation. So option number 1, the initial amount is $75 because the second we scheduled that field trip, roll up to the movie theater, it is $75 at the beginning, right from the get-go, no matter what. Option number 2, the initial amount is $50 flat fee. Doesn't matter how many kids we bring, right away at the beginning, the fee is $50. And then rate of change, of course, means how much is the total amount going to change. Well, every single time we bring one student, option number 1 is going to change by $5. So the rate of change for situation number 1 is $5 per student. For option number 2, the rate of change is $10 per student. In other words, how much does the total cost change every time you add a kid?